The whole larger vision was, let's make starting up worth it.
Think of young entrepreneurs who are on that journey and ability to put money on the table for them to have enjoyed the journey that they had so far, exit at a potentially right time and feel good about it.
Today, if I tell you we are building a secondaries marketplace and tomorrow SEBI comes and changes half the rules, I don't want to fold. What I'm taking is the next 2 years to build a brand name.
The big investment banking firms are now realizing that only doing IPO is not the way. So they're also now putting up teams for D2Cs, for consumer goods, for fintech, smaller companies. I think for them to do this at any point of time is not difficult.
When you embed your value proposition in your brand name, done deal, which is at some level great thing is, what you stand for is super clear. But the problem is, getting into anything else is much harder.
So here's a 30 crore company, flip it to 300 crore. They know the math of going from 0 to 1 तुमने ले लिया, 1 to 10, 1 to 100 बनाना हमको आता है.
I would love for you to tell me कि hey, boss, तेरा धंधा ये है, इतना वैल्यू पे है. अगर तू इसको ऐड कर लेता है ना, it's a 10x value. Because people like us need people like you to tell us this.
We're a country where there's a lift, but there's a lift man to press that button. नहीं आने, buyer वहाँ पे register करके आके ढूंढने वाला, it will take time.
But इंडिया में होगा आपको लगता है?
Today, तो we didn't even know that there could have been a startup coming out of anywhere. So that's happening. Anything can happen.
All right. Welcome to the BarberShop RAISER'S Edge. Thank you so much for taking the time and coming on a 6 a.m. flight this morning. My name is Shantanu. I'm the founder and CEO of Bombay shaving company Bombay BarberShop. I'm joined by Deepak and Mukesh who will introduce themselves, and then the floor is yours. So in any order.
Sure. Hi guys. Good morning. Good afternoon. Super excited to be here. I've been involved in the entrepreneurial ecosystem for I think last 23-24 years. I think I've seen it all, lots of ups and downs. Been involved in building some companies myself and also actively involved in early stage investment. So I'm very curious to hear how you guys are, what problems you are solving. So we'll have more conversation about that soon.
Great.
Hi, I'm Deepak. I'm co-founder and CEO at Bombay shaving company in Bombay. So running the business with Shantanu and also a part of the investor group of the RAISER'S Edge. Look forward to hear your story and discuss ideas.
My name is Rohit. I've been in the startup ecosystem for the last 15 years as an entrepreneur. Started my journey with a company called Glitch in 2009. As it would be, by 2015, opportunities came knocking. So we've got multiple acquisition options. And that's the first time we saw exit as an option. So I'm like, oh, is this something that's going to come through? Explored this, finally tied the knot with WPP. WPP is the world's largest advertising house. So got tied the knot into 2016 with them. Became part of the whole thing and got the entire global presence that they had. Parallelly in 2015, started another company called Chatterbox. This was more in the booming influencer economy that was going to start in 2015. So we said, is there something we could explore there? Started a marketplace of sorts. Again, right place, right time, early enough to get there. We scaled, we were market leaders soon. By 2020, again, Chatterbox got acquired by a company called QU Networks, based out of the US. Post these two acquisitions, were a great journey there. Started working with a lot of startups, actively investing in them or working closely with them. And that's when I kind of saw this problem where people started reaching out and saying, hey guys, how are you doing this? How does one get to do this journey in terms of how does one find an exit? How did you guys manage an exit twice? What is the path to it? And that's when I kind of reflected on the statement and said, this starting up journey, every founder has gone through a lot of rigor, right? And so how do you make this journey worth it? And that's the large question that was there. And saying, so I found the journey supremely fulfilling both times, right? So with Glitch and Chatterbox, and said, can we make this worth it for everybody else? So employees, founders, employees, investors, everybody's. And that's the large vision that we spoke of. Met Anish and said, hey, should we ponder on this idea? Let Anish take it from there.
But Rohit, first of all, congratulations on two amazing businesses. We work closely with Glitch and Chatterbox on and off, but amazing experience. And
thank you.
I think we would love to pick your brains on just generally marketing stuff separately as well, but damn good.
100%.
My name is Anish. Rohit and I have actually been friends for I think more than 8 years now. Much more traditional journey from my side. So I did my engineering in biotechnology, did my MBA as a fresher from IIM Bangalore. Spent 7 years at Kotak as part of the investment team. early employee in the real estate investing side. 2015 is when the markets were opening up there, and then joined KKR. Spent the last 7 years there, again on the investing side. So I think Rohit and I started discussing this around a year ago, and during that COVID time where a lot of us spent time pondering life and what to do next, and I found this problem super exciting. Started discussing with the ecosystem on the buyer side, especially with the funds, my very well-established alum network who are now CEOs and CFOs in different companies, and I think they all gelled with the fact that this is a real need and there is a gap that we need to address. This is day 23 for me since I officially started this journey, but super excited to be here and talk more.
Hi, I'm Ankur Jain, and I got in touch with Rohit and Anish last year through a common connect. And for me, I've been in startup ecosystem for more than a decade, working in different startups. I started with HealthCard, then I moved to Syrian Labs, spent almost 5 years there, building up the enterprise product more from technology product and more from sales side also. I was involved in few client side facing interactions also, and then I've seen the journey. How you start from a small first one client, and then how do you build the product, keeping in mind how different enterprise level clients you entertain all those requests and build the product which is configurable, so that there is a customer success team who can just take care of the product without the involvement of engineering team. And then from there I moved to Cast24. There I got another different kind of experience, which was managing a big team as well as bigger scale, because in enterprise SaaS you don't get that much scale, but more of a requirement and all those things. But at Cast24 I got this scale also. So with that got a good hands-on experience of how to build scalable products, not just working products. And then from there I moved to DotPay. Early again, just like Syrian Labs, I was an early employee there, and we did not even have the first client there. And from there, building the DotPay product along with digital showroom, and building the team, and playing again the same hat which I did at Cast24, which was product engineering. The other part which was interesting was building the team also, from early stage company to having an engineering team, and I left around 40-45 member team. That was interesting, and at that point of time there was a lot of rush also from the perspective how do you get the employee the right talent on board when so many offers were there. So that was an interesting journey. And then I took a okay, it's been a long time building up for someone else. Now let's build it something of your own. And that's how I got in touch with Anish and Rohit, and there was a right synergy from the perspective, one, thought process, and then at the same time what I am bringing on the table, enterprise SaaS, marketplace, fintech somewhat, and that all of this in done deal, and that is where looking forward to build
Sure,
the
Ankur.
right
Which year in IIT Kanpur?
Yeah, 2011 I graduated from
So
there.
way past my time, but still good to see the connection. Yeah.
Amazing.
You have done more companies, in your graduation since. I've only done 2, and I graduated way back in 90s. So you are really on a right path.
Amazing. Yes. So what's done deal? What do you guys plan? Day 23. So I'm assuming it's still very early days.
It is. So the day 23 of us all of 100% in this. There's been a journey of pondering, asking questions, all of those things, drawing out the vision and stuff like that. So like I said, the whole larger vision was, let's make starting up worth it, right? So making starting up worth it for who all? So there's founders, there's early investors, there's employees, everybody. So how do we build an ecosystem around this was the thing. So we said, let's tackle one step at a time. So we went first step saying the founder piece, and we said, we saw this entire gray space, opaque space in acquisitions, right? Exit strategy planning is not something that all of us founders are, it's not something that we discuss from day one. But that is something I realized in my journey of the last 2 exits that I had, how important it is to keep an eye on that, because sometimes that timing is so crucial. Sometimes when the market's ripe for it to get the right value and so on and so forth. So we said, can we now bring that into the ecosystem? Can we start this whole education process around exit strategy planning, where people get to know this. And B, how do these guys now democratize this entire run of acquisition, right? So we looked at the whole acquisition problem and said, how do we split it? So the problems right now lie in discovery, in access, in the process itself, and finally there's also some form of stigma attached to it, where I put my hand up and say, hey, I'm looking to get acquired, automatically brings your value down. So these are 4 key problems we said we should really try to address. Discovery was, obviously we said, okay, if we can find a platform where people can find each other, that will solve largely for discovery. The process in itself, we said, we looked at it, such a legacy process. 16 months of is the time that it took for a glitch acquisition to happen, right? And it took away the founders, distracted the founder from their journey. Luckily, we had a very, very strong second round team that was running the ship. Otherwise, both of us, the business only would have tanked. So we said, can we now reduce the process? Also, by reducing the process, we were able to increase the TAM overall. So we said, that's this thing. Can technology come and play a part in that? Access, which I remember this, the first time term sheet came to me, I was like, dude, how do I read this term sheet, right? And then you don't know, you don't have access to lawyers or whatever, you don't have a legal team, so suddenly I'm calling up friends. Luckily, I had friends in this thing, but not everybody has that. Can we now democratize this access? Can we bring in the right kind of people for them to partner with? And finally, stigma that I was talking about, that can we bring in an anonymous listing of sorts where you don't technically reveal yourself, because there's a lot of pride the minute you're acquired. Doesn't matter how much you're acquired for, whatever they say. The minute somebody is acquired, we've seen that status change immediately on LinkedIn to bracket acquired, right? So how do I now take the stigma out? And these were the 4 key parts that we were seeing. You want to add in?
Yeah, I mean, just mainly around how a founder thinks about acquisitions. I've noticed that, it's almost like, it's a sign that we have failed as a company if I'm thinking about being acquired. While to me, as an outsider in that sense, like I'm a new founder, it's completely the opposite. It's a massive sign of success that you managed to monetize and put cash in the hands of your employees, in your hands, in the investor's hands. But over time, you're institutionalizing that entity and saying that, yes, I founded this, but I now have a CEO, a CMO, COOs operating this company. I now have investors who might list, it might be a public market exit, it might be a secondary exit. While the company itself continues to exist as an organism, while these transactions can happen outside, right? And IPO is this holy grail of exits, and we know how many of them are going to happen in a sustainable manner, right? It's just that difficult to get to. So those are the kind of key insights that I'm really excited about, which is think of young entrepreneurs who are on that journey, and ability to put money on the table for them to have enjoyed the journey that they had so far, exit at a potentially right time and feel good about it, rather than say that, this is like, I'm folding, I don't have runway. Of course, those will also get addressed to what we are building, but I'm just really hopeful of these fantastic companies growing in a bigger avatar under somebody else's ownership.
And they also derive tremendous value, right?
A lot of value. I mean, I'll just add a little bit from the perspective that I have on the PE side, right? I mean, you've seen all these large traditional businesses which are cash flow generating, which have been around for so many years. And, just 2 things I've noticed is, one, there's a change of guard with the new generation who's now taking over. They've all studied outside India. They're people of today's age. And they all are excited about acquiring talent, acquiring innovation, they're willing to pay more for their CEOs, and they'll hire somebody from McKinsey or BCG and say, you come on board as a strategy head because we were batchmates at Harvard or IIM or wherever, right? And they are so much more open to acquiring innovation and bringing it on board. And they can feel that if I continue to run this slow traditional business, there's a risk that I suddenly become outdated, or, that I'm not with the times, right? So that's one. And then if you look at the PE landscape as well, right? And you would see a lot more of, buyout transactions happening over time, right? And that's because there are that fewer solid companies which exist in India, right? And so after the first leg of growth and so on, people are getting into buyouts. Yeah. Now, if you have fought with 10 other funds to do a fantastic buyout transaction, so you paid your multiple. Now, how do I juice out that return? You're going to do bolt-ons, you're going to acquire growth, you're going to acquire scope, and that's how you're going to make your money. And for me, what is exciting is if I look at this large company sitting in the boardroom, where M&A is like front and center, every boardroom, it's like we need to acquire. But there is no way for me to access these smaller transactions which are undiscovered in India. And, have these everybody from college to, third time entrepreneurs to whatever, experimenting in these beautiful directions with high risk capital. And then you have this traditional, business which has debt and equity, and it's got a solid fundamentals.
So I have one fundamental question.
Sure.
See, in the early stage companies, when you are in the process of building the companies, and you have short runway, etc., and you are trying to figure out you have multiple paths possible, and you may want to raise money, etc. If you are listed on a platform and people are aware that you have a stated intent of being acquired, what message it will send to
Nobody will get
the
to know you are listed. It's an anonymous listing.
Okay.
You will only get to know if you choose to expose yourself.
No, but-
And
So how
expose
we
yourself
doing this? I think probably run you by the
Right,
idea
sure.
of how we.
That will
Okay.
be-
So when you come and list yourself on the platform, what we are asking people to do is answer 10 questions, right? These 10 questions help us extrapolate about 20 pieces of data.
Sure.
We're able to take that data and benchmark them in the category they're in. So let's assume D2C personal care 2-year-old company. Where does all the data that
Sure.
they've entered, where do you stand compared to other D2Cs?
Right.
Basis that we give them what we call as a today value, right? So today value, not the value you'd
Right,
raise
sure.
at and so on. So this is the technically आज अगर बेचोगे तो
Sure.
कितना मिलेगा?
Right.
That's the number that we've done. Now it's up to you whether you are open for a conversation or very actively looking for a sale.
Sure.
You can decide that. In either cases, what happens? You have listed on a platform with an anonymous description. How it goes. So, for example, if you are looking to buy a company, what comes to you is a D2C company based out of Bombay doing MRR of this much with 12,000 paying
Sure.
customers. That's the note that comes to you. You look at that and say, okay, this sounds like a company that in the zone that I want
Sure.
to buy. So you express interest.
Right.
When you express interest, think of it almost like Bumble, right? So the entire control lies with the
No,
founder.
I think that is clear, but see, you still have the problem of supply. Let's say, for example, actually a real use case. We are actively looking to acquire D2C companies in fitness space.
Got it.
But let's say, you have 2 listed, but my potential universe is 20 companies. So it's like a bit of catch-22 that somehow you'll have to overcome, because I want to see the whole universe, and sometimes you may not have the stated intent, but after you talk to cult, your intent may change, right? So how will you?
So we decided that supply and demand, we said the platform's built entirely for supply. For demand, what we're doing is like, we'll come to you and so you say, okay, you are telling me this year I want to acquire actively, these are the kind of companies you want. We now reach out to everybody in this universe, say that there is a unicorn in this space, very actively looking, are you up for a conversation? So far, what we've noticed in the reach outs is 80% of them are willing to explore. Everybody is ready to sell, okay? Because at the right price, we're willing to explore. There will be 3 of them who are desperate to sell. There will be 17 of them, what is the thing? Which means 17 quality, 3 discounted. That's the thing that you get. So in that ecosystem, I'll share with you all of these cue cards. You look at it, you say, okay, this sounds exciting, this sounds exciting. And then the founders now revealed who the buyer is at this point. And then they can choose to expose whatever they need.
So you're
to.
able to reach out to all these companies. I think that
Yes.
becomes very credible, because that is genuinely hard. Today we struggle because every time we tell our corp dev person, we start from scratch. So if you can build that capability,
That's the
but a lot of companies initially at least may not be listed in a platform.
Correct. But so which is where the 2 types of entities that we want, right? Both the passive sellers as well as the active sellers. And what can we offer as a platform which makes it interesting for a passive seller to be not necessarily listed on the platform but be associated with us because of the various other tools and services we are providing. Just as an example, right? When you look at the guardrails of conversation between you, your corp dev guy, and this, is that established? To say that, are you looking at revenue positive or EBITDA positive companies? Are your margins in place? This is the minimum kind of customer base I want to look for. Will the founders stay? Do you want them to stay? Do you want them to not stay? And have, that awkwardness is completely removed because this technology or this platform is matching these 2 parties and putting you in the room and saying that, hey, there is a common ground for both of you to explore. And see, that is where technology can't do, it can't do a vibe check between a founder and a seller. And that conversation is a personal discussion between 2 people to say that, are we going to gel together for the next 2-3 years and make something big?
At that point, the 3 of you play the role of like the trusted buy side, sell side banker.
Correct.
Almost. Like
Correct.
after the process that you guys have said, they say, okay, fine, we have gotten them to a middle point. Now tying the knot will require
a human overlay.
Which doesn't have the constraints of saying that I want to push this seller to this deal because I'm playing a long game here.
Yeah.
Or say telling you that there are only these 2-3 guys buy now, otherwise you'll go.
But Shantanu is interesting observation. Fundamentally, you are going to buy side or sell side, or depends on the.
We're a platform, right? So we're not on either.
Just a language you're
But I'll
using,
tell you what, we are founder first.
See, ultimately, there are two parties involved.
Yeah.
They both want to get the best deal done. Right? It just, I think it's easier to say your platform, but I think when you get into nuts and bolts of actually making a deal happen, who are you representing needs to be clearer.
So we're very clear on being a founder first platform that way, right? So like we said, all privacy controls still sit with the startup who's selling.
Right.
They can choose to sell or not sell. They can get the advice also that they need. Right now, what we're doing to start with, right? This is a chicken and egg scenario. We are getting mandates from the buyer side.
Yeah.
The other side, we are tying up with we're partnering with a bunch of early stage funds, angel networks, venture garages of the lots, and they all have 100, 120 companies, 10 breakthrough, 60 of them we don't know, but those 60 could be like, if I'm saying that okay, there is a potential 4x exit, they are also turning around and talking to this thing. So it's not just me having the conversation, but also the networks, their own angels having that conversation there, right? And that is also, we've seen that help to a large extent because, again, like I said, exit strategy planning is not there. Suddenly when you're told, aaj agar bechoge itna, this is the potential value of you, there itself we are seeing people
See, what
converting.
it boils down to, are you going to play active role in valuation discovery, or is that a conversation between the buyer and seller? Depending on what that is, the more active role you have, then you will be clear exactly where you are. You just this fee structure and the entire valuation discovery is between the two parties. So I think that, I guess, tricky thing to navigate, but as you build the platform, you'll really figure it out.
Where do you see the maximum need for this? Like which size of the company or sector or ticket size?
So that is, we are very clear on one side, which is the untouched side right now, right? Which is the sub 100 crore category, or sub $10 million as we call it.
Revenue.
Valuation.
Which could be valuation.
Right? If I look at that, the reason being 150 upwards, there are banks who come in and help out. 300 upwards, the EYs, the Deloitte, the big four, etc. come in. In the sub 100 crore category, what is happening is you are either repped by boutique bankers, somebody who's exited this thing, they are all charging you a retainer. That is the one reason why people are not even like, mere ko nahi exit karna, why do I have to pay this guy a retainer? They don't even know if there's a value on the table, right? So that value add, they are not discovering. So that is a very untouched space. So we said, can we go after this particular category and we are very clear in terms of what kind of businesses are we targeting. In terms of category, we broke it down saying internet businesses, very wide, right, as a number. But we see where the demand is also. So D2C, EdTech, gaming, SaaS, these are places where there is enough data for us to also measure, understand. So these are clear focus points. Outside of that, anybody who's got, so as we call it, I mean, internet businesses, which is businesses which are able to plug in their say they have Tally, they have RazorPayX, they can plug that in and we can do thing or productize it. Those are pieces that we are actively targeting at this point of time.
Right. For this market of sub 100 crore size deal, have you guys estimated market? How many such deals happen, or what is the total value of these deals in India?
So as of, if you go last year's number, right, without a platform, without any of these things, there were 220 deals that happened sub $10 million.
Average deal size?
220 million reported deals. Average deal size would be about a couple of million, or less.
Let's assume more conservative.
So 220 deals at average ticket size $2 million. So almost $400 million, and which if I translate into market size of let's say 3-4% fee, so that's 50,
we're doing a 5% fee at this point.
5% fee, right? So let's say $20 million. So that also sounds very tiny market, right? Basically you are going after a $20 million revenue market.
Sure.
As of now, when there is no platform to do this, the exit strategy planning is not part of this thing. And on the other side, the buyers have always been the big guys, right? We are turning around, there are two sides to us. Even the other side, we are saying, can acquisition be used as a growth vehicle? I'll give you my own example. When Chatterbox started, we could either spend time building the marketplace and then getting people on this thing, or we could have acquired a company that would have fed in. We found Let's Intern. Let's Intern had 15,000 colleges and 180,000 students with them as a database. They had a Yink wing to it. We acquired that entire thing. I got my co-founder through it. small little acquisition, but I went to market 9-10 months before I should have technically gone. That accelerated my entire thing. So now can that become a point here? So helping even early stage companies. So the thing is, I could either spend 8 months in an acquisition, which means people are like throwing this thing saying, 8 months mein to I'll build my own team. But if I can close you your deal in 30 days, you're going to come to me and help do
No,
that.
I think still, I can tell you, my experience, right? Multiple times I made this mistake, getting into too niche of a category, and then getting out of that becomes very difficult. See, as a player, you can only grow the market to some extent. So $20 million market, I think, is very small. But sometimes what is helpful is you become very dominant player in that, and you figure out to get into some other adjacencies, and maybe you're able to do a bunch of things. I don't know, fundraise for startups in future and things like that. So just keep that in mind. I think my opinion is
definitely part
small.
of our that's why I started with a larger vision, right? Making starting up worth it for founders, investors, employees. Now, if you want me to double click on that, right now we're talking just the founder side.
Yeah,
right?
it sounds like this can get your foot in the door. You become a friend for early stage
We build a brand,
but
we
you
build
need to do
trust.
something else with
Yes.
that. Like this is just too small.
Can this become a secondary shares marketplace tomorrow?
So many people are thinking about this.
And,
So many
and
people.
we'll be rightly placed because A, we're a marketplace, B, we've built trust, we've helped companies get acquired. Why can't your ESOPs get acquired? That's one side.
Again,
There's a
need to
whole
think
financing
sharper,
leg.
this secondary marketplace of very early stage doesn't make sense in my opinion.
Correct.
You need to be somewhat mature company, right? So for when you are at a sub 100 crore valuation, it's too small. Product market fit also need to clear. I think secondary for that, I don't think isn't that meaningful.
No, secondary there will not just be limited to this. I'm saying that we would have built by then. So let's assume 2 years down the line when there's regularities in place, right? Today, if I tell you we are building a secondaries marketplace and tomorrow SEBI comes and changes half the rules, I don't want to fold. What I'm taking is the next 2 years to build a brand name, build trust among the audience. And by then, tomorrow, when we have clear rules on this, we'll be able to step into that, and that can be across all spectrums, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be sub 100 mil. So that is one side. There is also a large financing angle that we see at the bottom, which right now we are plugging with the acquisition piece. I'll tell you where. Tomorrow, if a Series A company wants to buy out another company which is on discounted sale and to help growth this thing, the minute you have 2 signed LOIs, we fund your this thing with a debt fund.
I have one more input to think about it, and since you are only on day 23, I think it's a good time to say sometime when you embed your value proposition in your brand name, done deal, which is at some level great thing is what you stand for is super clear, but the problem is getting into anything else is much harder. Let's say tomorrow anything which is not deal related, so it may be a great choice or may not be. Just be very clear because your brand name is committing to only be a certain type of company and will not allow you to be a different type of company. So just think about
Yeah,
it.
classic example is we have suffered with that. We're moving outside shaving, always a tricky thing. No, I think it's
Sorry, I just wanted to add one thought on the TAM thing, right? And something that we have thought about so much. If you look at, of course, we all would agree that the tailwinds around M&A and so on are going to be increasing over the next few years. But more importantly, the way our startup ecosystem has evolved. If I look at last couple of years, on an average, every year, there have probably been close to 1,000 odd seed, 1,000 to 1,200 seed investments which have happened, right? And if you take an average of that value of that company, take it as low as 10 crores or 20 crores, you're talking about a 24,000 crore market, which is going to be mature enough 3 years from now, because 95% of them will need this kind of a solution. 4% will raise Series B, C, D, E, and 1% or 0.5% will do IPO.
Slightly different point of view. I think the majority of early stage companies die, and almost rightly so, because too many unknowns.
Right.
So I think you can't, and that is not a market. The market is companies which build at least some value,
And
but there are timing issue and so on, right?
Correct.
So I think you don't really filter that out, So
So
most,
the entire thing
in fact,
would-
if you end up, company which has not really built anything, somehow you manage to get them acquired, you may be in disservice to
The
sell
market,
it.
the market will decide against
Right.
it.
No, I think right now is thanks for the nudge. I think I do need to get going. I just want to summarize, first, just a few things you guys have right caliber and I think right intent. It's also a genuine problem. I think over early stage startup ecosystem is not served very well.
Right.
So I think you are in the right zone for sure. And a few things you probably can ponder about, and happy to have more detailed conversation whenever we can. Thank you. Good chatting.
Thanks so
Thanks,
much.
Shantanu.
See you tomorrow.
See you. Thank you. See you.
Clearly, there's a lot of discovery at both ends need to be made, and this solves it. From where I'm coming is that right now, even investment banking, I think the big investment banking firms are now realizing that only doing IPO is not the way to kind of, because the funnel is expanding in a different way. Like you mentioned, 1,000 startups are kind of getting seed funding every year. So they're also now putting up teams for D2Cs, for consumer goods, for fintech, smaller companies. I think for them to do this at any point of time is not difficult, right? Because anyways they have team who do maybe 2-3 deals in 6 months or maybe a year, etc. Right? They will have a lot of bandwidth to also do this, right? So where your moat will lie, which I understood that given you have done it yourself, it's founder to founder conversation, which an investment banker will not lack. But just getting the maximum pie of this 20 million market you mentioned will be challenging. That's what I was thinking.
Other moat point will be, we are building a platform where, these real-time data will be getting from companies' MIS system. That is what an investment banker cannot do. Once a company gets plugged in our system, we know their data in and out. At least, let's say if it's a D2C brand, right? We do integration with Shopify and Razer, and we have more or less their books data.
So what you are saying is that you will be with the company throughout certain life cycle of the company.
Yes.
So that so it's not a transaction based relationship.
Yeah.
Right?
So I want to completely hold on to that point, because this was very early in our discussion. Somebody told me this point, which is don't build something which is transactional, which is the exact mistake that everybody else, bankers are trained to do, which is be transactional. I think we've kind of inculcated that into our DNA, which is I'm not coming to you and you say that I don't want to acquire companies, so therefore I didn't get a buy-side mandate with a monthly retainer fee, so I don't call you anymore. I have the ability to bubble up 5 companies to you every month or every quarter, as long as I feel that it's not crowding your inbox, I'll send it to you anyway.
And that's a low effort for me, given the tech is there. I know what you want. And the moment, new companies come in the system, or let's say existing companies' number gets, matched with what you want or what you are looking for, automatically, system can shoot an email with the, obviously anonymously.
And the most successful companies, and I don't know if you'll agree with this or not, most successful companies are going to be the ones which are going to be acquisitive, especially during some of the leaner, tougher times, right? There's data to back this, to say that if you during the 2007-8 crisis, companies that kind of leaned in onto smaller, mid-size acquisitions probably made double the return CAGR over the next 5-6 years than companies that did not, right? This is how globally
it's also the fund vintage also is like very classic
similar
proxy,
right? But and the opposite thing to do during those tough times is to say that, hey, I'm not looking at acquisitions, but that's probably where the highest value is going to be discovered for a large company which has more stable cash flows. Discovering these innovative hubs where these guys have run the experiments, failed 9 times, found that one successful idea, and you get to cherry pick and choose that one idea which takes you to the next level.
एक बार बताओ, do you genuinely think 100 crore, sub 100 crore valuation companies which are early stage are good acquisition opportunities? I don't think I was acquirable. I don't think we were acquirable as a company at sub 100 crore.
I'll give you an example.
Too much, just too much chaos, too little clarity, too much chaos, too many strategic decisions that are still need to be taken. But to take like a messy,
streams are not established.
कुछ भी नहीं, मतलब बहुत ही tough business है.
That is something already.
Young teams who've built whatever, they might have built a game, got great DAU on it, people are actively using it. It will never become a $1 billion company. But isko agar tomorrow if he can sell it and if he gets whatever, like let's assume it's sold for 30 crores, right? 3 founders with whatever, each of them sitting at 10 crores each, cushion to sit on for them to now start their next big game. So, and there are buyers also sitting there saying, I'll get this full DAU, right? There is so much active users. I have a full base here. I attach this game into my portfolio and then this doubles in.
So that, I would argue with you on your point on how interesting an acquisition you could have been, right? When you guys started, what you were starting, you would have gone with this complete new age thinking about the category that you're creating. There would have been, I'm assuming, a lot of digital first thought process, first principles on how do I advertise to the young market. We're all Gen Z guys. Your average age of your company in terms of you and your team would have been younger.
Correct.
How interesting would it have been for one of the big daddies in personal beauty, personal care, consumer care, with their slightly older generation who are struggling to be in touch with this generation, finding a company who has only done that, right? And that chaos has created a certain level of innovation. You would have been a super interesting acquisition in my view. You of course took a decision to kind of grow this. But let's say that
We took
funding-
money from these guys. No, we took from Colgate, we took from
but let's say
Reckitt.
that money was not coming at that point,
Yeah.
or that you as a founder felt you solved shaving and beauty and suddenly you're like, I want to do something else now. I want to create another marketplace. You can still disconnect from that company. That company continues, and he joins, and it exists in this avatar which continues. But the bigger company, who's probably got this foot in the door to potentially evaluate this over time, it's going to continue to learn from guys like you. And when I speak to these especially the PE buyout guys saying, can you find me 20 crore, 30 crore companies? Why would a buyout fund which has probably put 1,000 crore check is like 20 crore acquisition? How do I find? Because that is either it is not plus 20 in my revenue or EBITDA. It is plus 100 or 500 my EBITDA because my company doesn't know digital marketing the way these guys know. My company doesn't know how to make reels and reach out to the new audience, right? And I don't have the ability to create this to acquire that DNA as long as that gelling happens. So maybe you look at 10 of them.
But do you think there is an opportunity or I don't know, do you think there is an opportunity like how, for example, KKR or Warburg or
Sure.
Blackstone would come in, take 80% in a company,
Right.
sometimes public company, sometimes private, put in 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, maybe $1 billion checks and put in their CEO, their management team and turn that business around and make significant upside.
Correct.
But that happens with funds like that because there are just large pools of capital to deploy. Do you think that model will work in Series A, Series B, Series C type of funds also where they will say, "Yaar, man, I anyways cut 30 million checks or 10 million checks. I will cut a 40 million check and acquire 100% of this company, put in my own." I feel that because now there is a whole cohorts of founders from Mukesh to us to now younger ones who can be pulled in and say, "You run this business. I've acquired it for 40 million, and I want you to give me a 200 million outcome in the next 3-4
Check
years."
out Tiny.
You think funds will do that?
Have you heard of Tiny?
No.
Tiny calls themselves the Berkshire Hathaway of internet businesses. So they are going and acquiring companies
Fully,
100% of acquisition, and they're getting very senior leaders, like exactly like you said, like Mukesh, etc., who've done this in the past to come and say, now flip this to. So here's a 30 crore company, flip it to 300 crore. They know the math of going from 0 to 1 तुमने ले लिया, 1 to 10, 1 to 100 बनाना हमको आता है.
But India में होगा आपको लगता है?
Today, we didn't even know that there could have been a startup coming out of anywhere. So that's happening. Anything can happen on this front. And I wanted to quote Ronnie Screwwala from an interview long back. He said, "Scale versus control, scale wins."
Okay.
But then we saw that if I sold Glitch today, when we sold it, we probably lost control in terms of controlling stake. But from the scale that Glitch got from there on, that has to win, not holding 100% equity of a 100 crore company. 100% equity of a 100 crore company versus 20% equity of a 5,000 crore company. I do that. So that's the equation. So for right now, that's what is happening today. So when you ask me that question, saying in this 100 crore, will they sell? Will they not sell? This is something that's going to happen over time. It's the education that we're bringing in. What we've realized is year one, we set ourselves goals, right? And when we hit those goals, we know what it comes with. So it's literally like collateral damage. One company, like when Chatterbox sold, I got 7 calls from peers in that space saying, guys, how did you do this? How do I do this? Tomorrow, when a D2C company sells, like we were talking to Arjun that day, after he sold Arjun Vaidya, who sold Dr. Vaidya, he was telling us how he gets calls multiple. Every D2C guy who wants to sell keeps calling him. So it's like, the minute you sell one company, the surround of that will keep coming. So that's the focus.
Acquisition is a huge deal. I completely agree with you. That you're on the block is a problem.
Yeah.
Once you're off the block, you're a success. So it's really strange. It's a really strange thing because when you're on the block, I'll tell you the issue. At least from, I don't know, you obviously know this a lot better than I do. I think when you're on the block, the fact that it's like the Schrodinger's cat, right? The fact that you're on the block diminishes your value because acquisitive valuations are what they are. And if you want to raise money, then there's a, what they call it, dream versus satya ratio. Right. So when you're raising money, you want to maximize the dream and minimize the satya. When you're selling your company, you maximize the satya and there is no dream now. There's now only synergy, right? So
I think it's also the journey of entrepreneurship in India, in my view, because we are still talking about entrepreneurship becoming a big thing in India, which is, so now exit is kind of a step after that, because you don't start a company for the view of selling it, right?
Absolutely.
So I think where India need to see a lot more successful cases, then did start becoming a thing where founders start.
What you said, right? Like whether founders will sell the company and and then other take over the company. That is what is happening with D2C brands, at least in last couple of years. It has happened, right? Many D2C founders, they sold up their companies to either fully or majority equity to roll up brands, and then they are working in synergy with them. Whether it will happen with other industries also, highly likely it should. Given like you said, entrepreneurial exit, view is also going to set up with the time, and then that is.
I completely agree. I think so. Consumer, for example, is a very M&A friendly industry.
Absolutely.
From Unilever acquiring GSK, like massive scale, to like a 15-20 crore transaction. There is friendly buyer-seller relationship across the board, because I think consolidation of revenue to multiplier of value is the math is very clear. But you're right in the sense that sometimes companies do it for capabilities.
Correct.
And they buy large businesses for capabilities. Like I can easily imagine being a large consumer business, like $1 billion plus in India.
Yeah.
Like, let me buy the best D2C team in the country,
Correct.
because I want that thing to help me with my 20 other brands. Then you'll pay the money. You're a cash-rich business, you'll kind of. What you'll also do is, if you create a platform that is successful, you will incentivize a very cool breed of founders who are called build-in flippers, and they are insanely good. So, for example, I know we respect a guy called Ashutosh Valani a lot. I don't know whether you guys have met him. You must meet him. He ran this company called Beardo, which kicked our ass in the market when we were small. And then he sold it to Marico.
Right.
And then he built out Villain.
Yeah.
Then he, I think, sold it to someone. Then he's built out Rene Cosmetics and he's scaling that. Now he's selling. He is amazing at figuring out market opportunities, building a great product, marketing it, and he owns that identity like a boss. You must have done a lot of deals in healthcare, no?
In KK? I mean, I've been focused on real estate, but
Okay.
we've done.
And I wanted to draw an analogy. So, for example, if you look at healthcare businesses, people go for surgeries in India usually corrective. There are very few people do preemptive, right? And corrective surgeries, orthopedic is one of the big ones, especially replacement and all that. And a lot of hospitals index on quality of doctor, get the best doctor, the most renowned, best all person. But they did the proxy of doctor quality and consumer feedback of this thing. They realized that the correlation was limited, much lower than what they thought. And the higher correlation was in the nursing staff. So because the doctor will come and do the clinical, in my case, in your case, it will be the deal. That's the clinical doctor intervention, high, spiky and high involvement. But the experience will be defined by the nursing of that company, right? How are you welcomed? Are you made to feel comfortable? Are your clothes right? When you're in pain, are you kind of given the right painkillers? Is there a fond farewell for you? Is your wheelchair comfortable? Like all of that defines the experience of a surgery where the doctor was not as important. So I completely agree with you. Like if you want to making starting up worth it is such a noble mission. Like the more I hear you guys talk, the more I realize, I wish you guys would have been there when we were starting up or when we are building this out. And maybe you still can be relevant for us at our scale also. But I think there are a lot of things beyond just M&A where you will kind of plug your.
Yeah, I think that's where the relationship kind of.
But it will be a relationship-driven game, I feel. It cannot be. Tech cannot replace it.
I'm stealing that example of yours, the healthcare one. 100%. That's like it's actually so true, right?
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
The nursing side is where the magic is actually.
And that is a scalable, trainable.
That's the easier one to do.
We are not a country. Yeah, but we are a country, I realized, like I remember Chatterbox also we learned very, very early on, and that's the thing. We are a country where there's a lift, but there's a liftman to press that button. नहीं buyer वहाँ पे register करके आके ढूंढने वाला, it will take time. It's not going to happen today.
नहीं यार, I think making starting up worthwhile with an M&A as the core circle of operations, but then having a lot of things. I'm just thinking about it. I genuinely would love a secondary market. Of course, Mukesh is right. In the 100 crore plus minimum, you might not have, but you may have some people who grew with you for 2-3 years. Yeah. Where suddenly a founder will come and tell you, "Yaar, I want a liquidation of ESOP." ESOP liquidation is not a large ticket size item.
Correct.
You have someone who says, "I'm okay with the 5%."
Banker is not going to.
Yeah, I want a 3% position in a company and have 15 crores to give. That's enough for a team for a young team, right? That's great. And then secondary marketplace, starting up ke liye, all the CS, CA, legal, diligence checklists up front, MIS. I love what you said, which is you making a company capital event ready is not about the capital event itself.
Yeah.
It's about the health of the company by fundamentally being a better company.
So true. Yeah.
And it's so tough to do.
Very coming back to your revenue, so I'll kind of look this.
So what we are saying right now, it's a the only revenue model we have is a 5% this thing success fee. So on success you pay. Over time, the other pieces that we are adding is, so we are adding these newer products, right? If the deal's happening, you need a bank, like you need like a lawyer or you need a tax consultant. So US-led company buying an India company, they'll run away. Here's a tax consultant. We've onboarded a bunch of people. You can choose anyone from there. That's a commission-based model that we work with. These are the three this thing. How we're looking at year one, I'll put the revenue number aside. What we're targeting very deeply is a number called 30, right? Can we do 30 transactions in year one? Because it sounds like a really small number, but if I look at 220 acquisitions that happened last year, this is 10% say upar of that.
30 is very difficult. That's 2.5 a month.
Yeah.
It's almost 1 a week.
So that's the aim that we want to go with. So FY, not CY. Come on, we just started 23 days ago. You can't.
You're like, oh no, 2 months are done.
So we
30 is ambitious in my view.
That's the number we want to change,
Yeah.
right? So we get 30 in. We know that the 30 then will multiply to 100 next year very easily because suddenly we'll have that much. So imagine now it's two transactions a month or 2.5 transactions a month, right? That many times you're in the news. That many times you're being heard. Now your brand is getting built on this. So that's the number we're going after. Revenue wise, we looked at it and we said, if I do an average ticket size of say 2 mil, that's about 450 crores. Yeah.
Take rate 5%, maybe 20 to 25 crores. And maybe scale that over the next 3-4 years. But that's one vertical of the business and, which feeds into our larger vision. But that's the broad target. Obviously, this is going to be high margin in that sense because our,
So I think
I'll tell you what,
say,
very honestly, the moment you start talking to buyers and your company start growing, suddenly one of your buyers will be like, "Nee, yaar, I have an appetite for a 500 crore deal, find it for me." And then might mandate you for it. So I don't think the ramp up of revenues will be basis your business plan, will be how your relationships evolve.
And the 30 is an ambitious number, but we also today, why did we arrive at the 30? And we have also been brainstorming on this, right? So now we've started reaching out to the buyers to get the mandates. We've got about 10 odd mandates. Each person saying 4 or 5 companies like this. So in our head, we're like, "Arey, 40 active buyer hai." So the question was supply आएगा कि demand आएगा. Demand में अभी 10 लोगों से बात किया, 10 के 10 because buyer.
But real, like how do you recognize? It could be some flunky there saying कि मेरे को ये खरीदना है, और फिर बाद में नहीं करेगा. Just someone just wants to act big.
I don't know. I mean, so now I don't know how to validate that at this point. These are the 10 people that we literally knew and we've gone after, right? We've not even gone to the sea. So there we are saying that, hey, listen, this is my acquisition budget this year. These are the kind of companies I'm looking at. I have not found. BC, like blue chip VCs who have, corp dev teams, right? He's turning around and saying, listen, I know that these 3 companies have been actively looking. If you can find me, do it. The reason why they're all happy to give the mandate also, right now they're paying. So a lot of these companies are paying a retainer fee to bankers to do it. We are an absolutely free platform for buyers, right? Because we're using the buying mandate as like a bait. So we're using that as a bait to get this. And they're happy. They're like, okay, this is what, whoever gets me the way. Now it's up to us to find the quality supplier. Because if I don't want to be a startup debris marketplace, right? कि ऐसा मरने को आ गया, founder fatigue है, या फिर there's no this thing, that's when they're coming. No, we are very clear that we're going to get you supply. So we've broken our sellers into 2 sides: active seller, passive seller. Active seller is mostly discounted distress sale. Passive seller is the passive seller will always sell to an active buyer. Active buyer will say, and a passive buyer who's like, kuch hai to bata dena, will always buy the discounted sale. That's how we've drawn the.
And how's your current team? 3 of you, or you have?
It's just the 3 of us, and then he's building his tech.
And between the both of you, who will be the CEO, or you guys are saying we'll do it together?
So that's
we're co-CEOs.
Co-CEOs.
So all 3 of us are.
Okay.
Because we're all equal.
And what is the challenge you see in this story in terms of building this and scaling over next 3-4 years?
So, no. So the point we understand this question, this hurdle that will come called TAM, right? Everybody, because and we know that okay, we have to get to this 30 number and the 100 number for us to get to from where we are seeing this more than a challenge. Yes, the first half to get this journey done will be this thing. productizing it, right? We recognize today itself that human touch product may not solve everything.
Right.
Human touch is important. 6 months to pura proper human touch is there.
Especially
Over
I think
time,
in
we'll
a country like
understand
India,
where.
you can't discount that.
Yeah,
I think
we'll
it's
know
even a
where,
country, yeah.
what is how much can be productized, where can we leave this thing at. We also know that this is not our end goal today, right? But I don't want to like set in stone what all we will do, because we will go where we go basis of where we hit. So right now we're putting blinders on saying let's do 30 transactions, right? With 30 transactions, we'll have an answer to saying what it took to do these 30 transactions, what will it take to do the next 100. While we do that, we can go to the other side. Today, there is no, I mean, when we start talking, it's almost like people are saying that, but in the same thing, right? We go historically, 200, will the market cap out at a number? Is that possible that it does? So we drew out a map. So worst case scenario, realistic, best case scenario. Worst case scenario, we end up becoming a sub $10 million investment bank, like a Avendus of this generation. Thoda tech hai, ye hai, wo hai. But that's not our end goal. We really want to look at the other side of it, which is where we can open this entire market up.
Yeah. I think the way I would think about your org would be, can you guys make kingmakers and queenmakers in your organization as partners? You will. That's what I was seeing. Jim Simmons, Renaissance. Renaissance is a hedge fund, has $100 million plus traders as individual institutions within the fund, creating 38-40% CAGR for last 30-40 years. These are incredibly intelligent human beings, but they are what make the fund, right? So for you, because I'll tell you why. Because I think the success of your business, you guys are so much more experienced than I am, but at least just thinking about this, the success of your business will depend upon the human interaction with your sellers and buyers both, and the ability to time a deal. And both of these, to some extent, no offense to tech, I feel tech will like enable it to a massive extent, but beyond the point, it will be about the people.
The good thing is we all three have that understanding,
Yeah.
and we are aligned on it that it's not tech, but there will be human touch which tech cannot.
And timing judgment, like you're 7 years at KKR or you've sold a company, like timing is everything. Same fundamentals, different time will not lead to a deal or will lead to like a very different set of value. So for you, like, can you create those 10 queen makers, king makers in your in done deal, and let them run their own books, but the consistent DNA of making starting up worthwhile and holding your core will be your job, so that they kind of build it out. Then that 30 number can become 500, and I feel it will evolve into something which all five of us and Mukesh included will probably not foresee today, because it's a very
Here's my pitch for analysts, right? Won't make you make pitch books that nobody wants to read and see, and tell you about the beauty personal care segment in 5 pages on the industry CAGR over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So I will tell you the MRR of the company, who the founding team is, what the gross margins are, what is the unit economics, and then you have that conversation and see whether you want to do the deal, right? So that's our pitch to.
I would love for you to tell me कि hey, boss, तेरा धंधा ये है, इतना वैल्यू पे, अगर तू इसको ऐड कर लेता है ना, it's a 10x value, because people like us need people like you to tell us this. Buyers are not educated, yeah. Buyers will not be as educated as you guys would imagine, in my view. Maybe PE funds, etc. might be, but companies may not be. Like people like us won't have a head of strategy or McKinsey or whatever.
We had drawn that out, right? The entire, how does the deal happen, steps. When we drew that steps down, we said, okay, what part of it can be productized? Where do you need product plus human? And that's how there are things that can be, like the pitch book making, right? Nobody reads it, but most important part, the most important numbers you need. Productized, yes, can be done. Data room, productized, can be done. Advice, can't be productized, can be this thing.
I know that decision will come to the three of you, and you guys have to take a call as people, whatever the data and algorithms and models throw at you. And what's the capitalization this thing right now? Like, what are you guys looking to raise?
We're raising a 1 mil round at this point of time. We're doing it on a convertible, so it's a 10 cap and a 5 floor.
10 million cap, is it?
Yes.
5 million floor.
20% discount.
Yeah.
And 20% discount.
Yeah.
In between this, okay. And does it convert to the floor if you don't raise over the next 1 year or something like that?
Yeah, next 24 months. Because we put that number saying where next 1 year is 30 deals. Where does that 30 deals now blow up into?
What is that number? 12-month and 24-month number in terms of revenue?
Where the 30 deals takes us.
Okay.
Assuming a 15
And second year?
crore average.
So based on the
yeah.
30, we were saying that if can we make that 30 into 100?
100.
So 3x that.
So roughly around 70-80 crores.
Interesting. And of this million, has anyone come in and committed some
Yeah,
capital?
we've got almost 50% committed
Okay.
on this. So what we've done is we've tried to do a very strategic fundraise, right? So trying to get in category leaders, right? So we get in people who either are active acquirers, so founders of companies who are active acquirers and that's the thing, or founders who have huge network of people who. So we've realized that each category it's a mafia of sorts. So if I go to SaaS and get one person, that person will know every single player in SaaS there who. Tomorrow, if you're looking for it, it's the first level of contact. So access becomes easier. So that's the rule that we're going with and trying to fill in each category there.
So for example, Amrish and Jitendra,
Right.
the Jupiter and the Pine, these guys control fintech angel deals in India today. Every fintech founder wants to go there, so
And wants to meet them.
So if those guys are completely available. People like Mukesh, for example, will be a fantastic guy to have.
Yeah.
Amazing. And so any of the people you can name in this 50%? Who have already committed?
Arjun Vaidya is committed from a D2C point of view.
perspective.
Ajit Peg from delivery is committed.
Okay.
Who's the other ones? Shripad?
Nadkarni?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
He's committed.
Very cool.
So we've had multiple conversations. So it's almost like soft commits from players in SaaS, etc., which we are now going to hardcore close that soon.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, can you just give us 5 minutes to just quickly discuss and come back to you?
You know that just really chills you down? It's the best part.
There's some 3-4 things, right? One is when e-commerce was becoming big, we were not sure whether e-commerce companies will make money or not. Even now it's out. But ancillary services to e-commerce made a lot of money. So warehousing and logistics, you saw companies kind of get resurrected. Look at the number of companies who are building out ESOP solutions in India. Big founders raising capital just for ESOPs. Right, which is a very small use case of the starting up world. So मेरे को लगता है कि यार एक तो starting up is going to become a thing. BarberShop is kind of
to
part
me,
of that.
that's the North Star actually in this conversation is that India will see
lot of startups. Now the second level is कि तो ancillary services for starting up will become big. They're trying to build that out, which is amazing. They're saying यार हम लोग कंपनी को बिकवा देंगे अगर तुमको बेचना है तो, and we'll remove the stigma all that. The storytelling is great. The second thing which I find amazing about them is the clarity of thought on the business at day 23 is unbelievable.
That's true.
They know exactly. They've done one deal already. They're already talking about the second deal. They've spoken to a million people, and they're all very high caliber founders and very individually unique. He's Glitch and whatever Chatterbox. This guy's KKR director. This guy's techie out and out. But I think the gelling of that team
It's very good.
is very, very good, and it's a very high caliber team. I think clarity of thought is also they
I
have very
completely agree on the clarity. I think clarity
Very
is
high.
stupendous. Yeah.
very high clarity of thought. Also, I think.
Complement each other.
They're not a monotonous team. They're very different people. But clarity is consistent. So I really like that about them. Third thing is I genuinely have a very personal bias towards this company because they would have solved for like someone like us 6-7 years back. They would have solved something very meaningful for us. Right? Because तुम बना रहे हो कुछ. So many companies we see die of starvation of capital when they could have been sold and the founder would,
Information asymmetry is clearly there,
Huge
right?
issue.
Yeah. So just by solving that, I think they will solve a lot of problems for
Yeah.
The only thing I was thinking is that in this business, what is the right valuation? So that's the question in my head.
Traction, for example, did like a like end of the day it was a seat. I think they'll get tech product kind of valuation as long as their revenue streams are kind of in line with that. अब पता नहीं अभी आज के डेट में क्या valuation 5 and 10 million rich. I think it's a rich valuation to be very honest. But I think my view is we should participate, but ask them for a lead who will anchor the value rather than the founders anchoring it. Because I think in a tough market like now, if they try to grow into a valuation through revenue, it will be tricky for them. I think overvaluing a company upfront is meaningless in general. So let's see if we can negotiate that part or kind of give them guidance. We'll tell them. So what kind of check do you think we should put in?
I think if around 30-35 lakhs.
I was actually thinking more around 1.5 crores.
Okay.
I'm kind of more bullish on this. I think from an allocation standpoint, we'll get a bigger chunk of the deal.
Yeah, I think if you are able to get the anchor of the valuation clear, then once you are
What we should tell them is that I think they should value the round rather than making it a convertible.
Convertible, yeah.
Because convertible is meaningless. Like I can make 20% elsewhere also.
Because 10 mil valuation seems slightly
is rich on a document, right?
It's not very complicated because it's ultimately
demand supply. I agree.
Demand supply and the documentation is also standard.
Yeah.
It's, like frankly speaking, you can evolve tech to a certain level in this case.
Correct.
Because you know that these are legal requirements, these are financial DD requirements. This is the company MIS details I need, and then this is a valuation model.
Correct.
Whatever scoring you can decide.
You can actually build this on a on a reasonably smart Excel sheet also.
Excel sheet also. Then obviously the beauty they brings is their experience. Richness, complementarity, etc., and just the experience of building and selling also.
Yeah.
But I think the entry barrier to me still is kind of is low.
Got it. ठीक है. What I am suggesting we
definitely we should put money. Yes.
I am saying let's put in 1 crore and tell them that if there is no other check that's bigger than 1 crore, then we will have a valuation discussion separately. If there is a check larger than 1 crore, let them decide the value. We are happy to follow. But if no one else is putting a check under 1 crore, we would like to reprice the round because we feel it's rich for your sake only.
Makes sense.
ठीक है. Cool. Cool. Thank you so much, guys. I think Deepak, you should keep adding. I think just one of the most incredibly honest and worthwhile missions to be a part of, right? So starting up worthwhile resonated with me personally on so many levels. I think what you will do for founders, you are founders yourselves, but what you will do for ecosystem of founders, if you are even able to do 10% of what you're imagining, will be deeply ecosystem enriching. So I think super congratulations on that. I think second thing is just clarity of thought on the business is at day 23, I don't know what I was doing when I was running Bombay Shaving Company. Definitely not even 1% of how clear you guys are. I think your maturity as founders, you're an exited founder, you guys have so much experience in very different spaces. So you guys come in with a very high amount of maturity and pedigree and caliber and thoughtfulness about what you want to build. The cool part is you guys are very consistent in your core DNA of what you want to build, but very unique in your personal experiences, right? From tech to deal making in real estate to building out companies and selling them. You come with very different experiences, but you've been able to marry it beautifully in a very consistent and kind of not monotonous, but I think you guys will be true to your values. And when you frame them down to say, hey, we will always do sub 100 crore deals because that's where our birth was and that's where we create value. Of course, the company can evolve into secondaries and other startup related activities. I think third thing is, and Mukesh was right, that the market may be small, right? But Deepak and I were talking, we believe that now is the time for starting up, okay? And when markets grow, ancillary services are always the ones that really build valuable, successful, cash-rich businesses. So when the gold rush happened, it was the crane guys who were building out. Like everyone knows that story, right? So even when Amazon, Flipkart were becoming big, it was the warehousing logistics guys who really created a lot of value. Which e-commerce company will actually do well is still jury's out, but the ancillary stuff does well. And I have gotten at least 3 to 4 deals in the last 2-3 months on companies who are trying to build out products for ESOPs. तो बहुत ही specific use case है. मैं हमेशा सोचता था इतनी company ESOP के लिए क्यों बन रही है? But and they're getting funded, and so there is clearly starting up is going to become a big thing. How that starting up universe is going to evolve, I think it's very hard to predict, but it's going to happen. So people who are helping that industry, are going to survive and thrive and do very well. So which is what you are doing. So I think kudos on the ideation and on the mission. And I think three of you are mission oriented founders more than you are mercenary founders in my view, because even though what you're doing, you might kind of incentivize mercenary founders to build and flip and kind of do more things. But the three of you yourselves seem to be, from the last hour and a half or so, of being very mission oriented, which is something we love a lot. So I think that's the great stuff. I think, and Deepak will add on this, we do feel that, evolution is kind of unknown. Whether you become a bank or whether you guys become a traction with this deal flow or whatever, we don't know. Entry barriers are low, right? So you never know. Like you guys do well, someone will overfund something, and again, very easy for me as a seller to list on 5 platforms. So there's no exclusivity ever in a situation like yours. You'll never have access to the deals exclusively. People will come to you because you have to build trust and so on. So it's a tough journey, but I think if it was easy, you would have done it by now, right? So I think that's.
No, broadly agree, and I am a great believer in the entrepreneurial story in India. I think that has started unfolding, but I think it's just maybe less than 1% of what it can be, right? I think, and what you are trying to solve, and I'm sure you will also evolve along the journey, will add immense value to that overall story, especially to the founders at large. So yeah, I completely agree with Shantanu, and especially I think loved meeting you, clarity of thought, this kind of complementarity you bring to each other, and conviction in what you want to do is amazing.
So on the deal, right, I think we want to come in, okay? We do feel that the valuation is rich, and we are I've never done a convertible round. I've always valued my business. Even my first round, I valued it at 15 crores, raised money, and because it clearly anchored in my head, कि 15 crore पे मैंने किया, now I have to grow into 45 crores and raise the next. So I have given whatever 15 crore post था, तो 3x value देके मैं आगे बढ़ूँ. So for me it was easier. I do feel that it's a very high value for an idea stage. Of course, you guys are significant as premium on your caliber and pedigree, which I absolutely understand and estimate. What we want to do is we want to come in with 1 crore. Okay. If there is a check larger than 1 crore, we will let that investor agree with you on the dynamics of the term of the round. Right. But if none of your other investors are 1 crore or everyone else is less than 1 crore, we would like to revisit the round construct. I will tell you fundamentally where I would like to value it, and I will leave it to you to value it because you guys are the founders. You guys value your business. I do feel a 5 million floor and a 10 million cap is rich. 24 months is too long. I think 12 months is more relevant. Ideally, I would just say value it at like 5 million. If you're raising a 1 million round, value it at 5 million and then grow into a 10 million round for a good Series A or something. It's just easier to do. So guys, do your 30 deals, you'll raise a great Series A. Your angels will be happy. Just the validation of a very happy investor group is far more important than the 2% dilution you will save, in my view. But that's a very personal point of view. But it's fluid. Okay. So the decision tree is if someone else is writing more than 1 crore, our crore will come in at whatever that person decides, and you and that person decide, we're happy to piggyback. Sure. If everyone else is less than 1 crore, can we revisit this? It's my only request. Right. I represent, Deepak and I represent these 80 investors, so we want to get a good deal for them, but don't want you guys to feel that you are shortchanged in any way. So we don't have to do it now. Sure. As long as principally you guys are okay, we are happy to underwrite a 1 crore check and be a part of done deal in not only financially, but of course more emotionally and part of your journey. I don't know what you guys think about that.
Yeah. No, I think it's a fair ask. So we initially thought about it saying, should we price the round? Should we do a convertible? We got different opinions. At some point, it just looked like convertible was an easier option because we didn't know how to exactly price this thing, right? So if we start valuing it in our heads, if you ask me, I can justify the 10 mil as well. I can justify the 5 mil as well, right? So it became that question. But it's a very fair ask. I think we should...
I think we kind of in principle happy to kind of explore this. We came to you guys because we are super keen to kind of work on this partnership, right? Yeah. And it's when we spoke the first time, what was very interesting is just potentially having this group of 70, 75 investors who very high caliber people, and having that interaction means a lot to us, which is why for sure we do want to explore this. And I'm very happy that our mission kind of resonated with
for
you
sure.
guys, and I take that.
I think the it's kind of the synergy is very there. Like you guys are on very very similar mission.
Yeah.
I can see it. I've been following your podcast for the longest time, so it's
Right.
it's that it's
Oh,
that you are teaching this entire ecosystem a lot of things which they don't know and kind of shaping this ecosystem. So it's the minute he had this conversation, we were like, yeah, we should definitely do this. So it's from us, it's a done deal.
Done deal?
Yeah.
Cool. So I think just to recap, we'll put in 1 crore. If we are the largest check, then we should just revisit the terms.
Yeah.
We won't tweak them a lot, and we don't want you to walk away uncomfortable from the deal.
Sure.
We want you to walk away feeling you got a great deal.
Yeah.
But I also want to make sure that we have protected the interests of our investors,
Right.
so that everyone kind of says, okay, let's look at the road ahead and not whatever. I don't think we are far apart in general.
No, we'll figure
And anyways, valuation this early is just an art. There's no real number attached. Kya karenge usme? You create wealth for us. And for example, if you see the board outside, the bottom number is 1400, right?
Right.
That number was going to be 3,000 bucks. Because I had valued the company at 32 crores. And I had one investor, I had gotten all the checks. I had one investor who said, यार 30 crores on an idea, Shantanu, makes no sense. क्या रेजर बनाएगा तो सब ये सब डॉक्यूमेंट है यार, उसमें क्या है? Because Mr. Ramdorai, who was the TCS CEO and was probably is current till date probably our most high profile investor, and he's Padma Shri and all of that. So I said कि यार him on the cap table is important. So then I went back to all our investors and said कि यार 30 नहीं 15 crore हो गया valuation. So like क्या is something wrong with the company? What is going? I said no, there was someone who negotiated on your behalf, but you guys are all getting super, because till date that valuation multiple is now 2x of what it would have been, 2 times what they would have made. And I could not have been happier. Like with this, for this round we're raising, we are going back to all our angels and saying, hey guys, this is what your holding is looking like, and this is what can happen if you exit. If you hold on till IPO, this is what can happen. And we just feel so happy writing those emails. So that's just the
If the values right and people are seeing the upside, I think they keep backing you again and again. That's also important.
So if you want to raise, instead of raising 8 crores, if you want to end up raising 6 crores, completely okay. If you, by the way, if you reduce your valuation to an exciting number, we can go from 1 to 2 crores also. That's also an option for us. So we are very happy to put in a 2 crore check if the valuation is exciting. We're happy to put in a 1 crore check at whatever value guys. So for us, that's because I'll tell you why. For us, the dynamics are these 80 checks will come directly into your company. So it's not like a fund vehicle or whatever where I'm doing fund mathematics. It's not like that. So for us, this is an individual discussion. If it's valuable for everyone to start like cost say we get better terms, etc. And you are saying, okay, I'm happy to dilute. I don't want to dilute a lot, but I'm happy to raise less. It's less capital intensive. We'll underwrite a larger amount. So we can do between 1 to let's say 1.5, 1.75. So up to you. You guys decide. So again, 10-15% mat karo. The way to think about it would be, what multiplier can I give when we raise our Series A? That's the North Star. So, and you should try to give higher than 30% CAGR, because we would have made 30% CAGR putting this capital elsewhere. In any PMS or whatever. They are all people who are allocating money that they're not putting in PMSs or as LPs and funds into startups. So then they're like, यहाँ पे थोड़ा risk reward ज़्यादा है, तो reward भी ज़्यादा होना चाहिए. And in your case, the company is going to do well. What you don't want happening is you don't want to mute returns because you overvalued on day zero, which was not necessarily didn't add any value to you, but you just have a group of investors who feel that your opportunity cost is not fully worthwhile. That's the only thing.
No, fair.
So your call, you think about it. You don't have to do it now, but principally, I think done deal.
Done.
Amazing. So nice to see you guys. We have some hampers for you. I hope you guys can take them back, but these are for you, and we'll send some for your team to your address. But thank you so much, and was an absolute pleasure to meet you.
Same here.
So you are.
Done deal.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Lovely meeting you.